Pantheon is the king at being able to respond to side lane plays, and inevitably when you have champions like the Taliyah, side laning is going to be a major factor in the game with that Weaver's Wall constantly active. But I just feel like it lacks that oomph that we kind of were extending the same courtesy to NIP with in game number 1, where you are on a timer to make use of your damage, make use of your CC. Only this time, Dia, I don't think it's necessarily the early game. I feel like the big thing that we have to be looking at is the Sivir being influenced by the Pantheon. How well can Jwei truly be proactive around the map? He was on Wukong, who wasn't known for his early game aggression in game number 1. Now he's on Pantheon, known to do just that. So when he's in his element, how hard can Jwei hit NIP here in game 2?
And there's a very different dynamic between a Galio and a Pantheon, if we think about mid-jungle duo, than there is between a Ryze and a Wukong, where Ryze is able to set things up for the Wukong. It's the other way around with Pantheon and Galio, where it must be Pantheon making sure that Rookie, who is now flashless at minute 1, is comfortable playing the game.
Holy moly. 1,100 games for Rookie. Third to do it. Who are the other two? I feel like... Oh, gosh. Who are the other two? Like, maybe it's... I imagine one of them has to be like Uzi, right? LPL legend. Been around forever. Maybe the other one is like Mako? That's my guess.
I love, appreciate, and respect your guesses. I don't even... I could read the graphic. I mean, I read the numbers. I understood what it meant, but... Maybe there are qualifiers on there, helpful hints, tips, and tricks for the lads at home. I don't know. And I'm gonna stick with what I do know, and that's Sivir shoving bot wave.
Yep, the classic. But want to bring attention back to the mid lane. Rookie without that flash. I'm interested to see if that'll actually be punished here by Guwon. Zhen jungle, haven't really been able to touch on it yet, but not known for his early game proactivity. This is a champion that is basically a pseudo tank, one that is very good at drawing pressure with that revive and still being able to fight afterwards once that goes off. Is not known for the early game aggression. So I wonder if capitalization on that flashless Galio will actually come through, or if it'll just be ignored. As speaking of early game aggression, Guwon is already to the bot side.
I mean, there's literally no vision here for IG. Flash out of Photic, and Jwei's still got his, but Guwon shows up in bot side, and while he's here, I think I'll throw in my 2 cents about the Zhen as well. I like the idea. I think this looks cool. Oh, another hook connects. Actually, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. Yeah. It is stylistically very different from what we know Guwon for, which is the one-button wonders who press their combo, their ult button, and then end up impacting the fight. Zhen very different. The one exception is that we know Guwon has a pocket Viego as well. And I wonder if that comfortability on his pocket Viego actually turns into a really confident Zhen game, because it could.
But he's already starting on the back foot this game. You could see Jwei clearing his entire jungle, getting the crab without a care in the world. But Guwon, looking for that early game play, does kind of offset his tempo a little bit, puts himself behind in the timing. And so Jwei naturally not even going to go for just one crab. He's going to be going for the double crab. He knows that Guwon is still on that bot side. And so this is a really solid start for the Pantheon. Jwei hasn't been able to impact any of these lanes yet, but he is getting very close to that level 6 already, which will give him just that extra level of threat.
That much more accelerated and really unlocking the mid-game presence of Pantheon. The thing you really have to be scared of with Pantheon jungle. Yeah. The fact that he can show up in your lane with about 3 seconds notice, maybe even less. And this time, he could even be bringing Rookie with him, who is on his way to level 6, his very self. Flashless on the Galio has not really impacted him. And even the early summoners that we saw burned bot side for IG haven't really impacted them either. Photic's flash is about halfway off cooldown, and Zhuo has been great about the hooks so far. We haven't seen Guwon come back down bot side, and he's got about until 6 minutes, maybe 7, to do so, and that's a ways off.
Those two numbers in conjunction have fried my brain forever, as we are seeing Zhuo look for something right now. Dragon is up in about 10 seconds here. Rookie is also very close to level 6, so once that is unlocked, I think he's going to move up toward the bot side. Before that happens, NIP want to try and bully the bot lane of Invictus Gaming as much as possible, especially because, like you said, Dia, Photic is without that flash. Yeah,
I think it's awesome that we had Guwon come down here. Even now, showing on vision seems pretty worthwhile. For as behind in farm as he is, you just keep throwing out these hooks, and one of them is going to land. Last auto by Assum secures first blood for NIP, and IG want to answer back. In comes the Galio, and Zhuo will go down. But NIP getting first blood on Assum is exactly what they wanted in Game 2.
Yeah, good look coming out there from Zhuo. Does give his life to the 1-for-1, but is absolutely worth it in my book because Assum not only gets the first blood.
No!
Oh no, Assum pushing up a little too far. Rookie does have the flash available.
Yeah, I'm not gonna burn it now. Not gonna burn it ever, it seems. That's a tough way to go. That was, yeah. Was that avoidable? I mean, he either just lets the wave sit there and get frozen against him, or he dies.
And this is really difficult for Care. He's going to be able to, you know, regain a little bit of footing here by grabbing up a plate as this Talia, but I mean, 2 kills now over to Rookie. It's going to be so difficult to trade into this Galio with his innate resistances, and now that Alternator going to give him a little bit more extra punch with some of those spells.
Rookie is going to have a little while where his ult's on cooldown, and you could see Talia roaming around to the rest of the map. NIP, they've still got the run of this bot lane for now, but Photic's flash, importantly, is back up, so a lot more safety for this Sivir over the next couple of minutes until NIP are able to force that again, and who knows when that's going to be. Perhaps around this dragon that has spawned in the last couple of minutes.
I think IG not super trigger happy with the dragon just because they don't have the hero's entrance from Rookie to really be able to, you know, get that 1-2 punch off. They want to have that global ultimate available if they do look for a skirmish. And for NIP, maybe just not confident enough that they can one-shot that dragon. I mean, Zhen only has a longsword and a ruby crystal, so it's very difficult for Guwon to actually be a damaged body in these fights. Close trading. The flashes there.
Bot lane up top side. Zhuo gets to fish for hooks, but even better than that, the bot lane's presence in top lane means that NIP can and should get the Void Grubs and maybe even a little more. They're looking for a dive on Soboro, even between the towers. Guwon's about 5 seconds behind the play, but Hoya may just be able to do this all himself as Soboro goes down. No assistance from anyone else needed, and Void Grubs are, of course, on the table.
Plated Steel Cap's not going to save you from that one. Soboro goes down, and NIP take everything on the top side, but, you know, alternatively, NIP take everything on the top side, but alternatively, IG take everything on the bottom side. The dragon will be secured there by Jwei. It's a bunch of plates going over to Photic and Jwei on that part of the map as well, and Hoya isn't even able to walk up to the wave. This Renekton is a little bit homeless, to be honest with you, at the current moment, Dia.
And if we ignore Void Grubs, role quest-wise, which is a small but important part of the game as we approach the mid-game, it is better for IG that this happened the way that it did. I mean, it sucks to lose your top laner, but everybody is, quote, in the right place, and that is going to matter quite a bit. We'll see who wins this first turret race, as Photic is unfortunately alone, and NIP have 3 people, but IG also have a defense, and NIP's turret does not.
They're not going to be able to claim that tower, though, and you can also see Photic going for a reset. So first turret not going to be taken just yet, but crucially, some big item spikes are just around the corner. You can see both AD carries are getting very close to completing their first items as well. If they're able to get to these breakpoints by the time this next dragon spawns in a little over 3 minutes, I do think that they will look a lot more competitive at being able to actually contest that objective. Though I will say, I do think that because Rookie is so far ahead and just the magic resist on this champion is such a big part of his kit, it will be difficult for Assum and Care to free hit onto some of the squishier members of IG because of how far ahead this Galio has found himself to be.
Is a really threatening part of the team fight, and I think that's one of the reasons that they ended up going with Galio, because you saw a couple of hovers. You could have gone Silas, Twisted Fate, all to match the Taliyah and the global presence that she brings, and instead going with Galio, which makes the mid game quite difficult, especially when we consider the fact that there's a late game coming and a late game Sivir with that as well. A Galio that sits on top of a Sivir makes that Sivir pretty darn safe.
And I like the adaptation coming in here from Rookie opting for the Proto Belt build because he is the sole AP threat on IG. So he has to be building a little bit into the damage department just so it's harder for these NIP frontliners in Guwon, Zhuo, and Hoya to build against their team as coming in from Guwon, but this phase rush is just going to allow Rookie that damage onto Care. That's one item, by the way. 4 stacks on the Darksteel. Whew, what a world of difference it makes.
He's literally completely untouched as well. Getting the double taunt, he just lets that one roll out, does plenty of damage, and doesn't burn a summoner. Doesn't even look like he broke a sweat. Gets to shove in the wave as well. And the dominance that we didn't really see in lane as much last game in the Ryze via Azir matchup definitely looks good in the Galio Taliyah matchup, odd as that may seem.
For sure, and it just kind of, I feel, sets a precedent for NIP who want to try and wrestle control of this mid lane in order to fight for this dragon coming up in a little less than a minute and a half. That Rookie is going to have no problem being able to walk up, easily clear this wave, and then give priority over to himself to join up with his team on that bot side river. So NIP, they're going to have to commit multiple members, as you can see around this area, to try and match Rookie in the wave clear department enough to gain that priority and that access to the river.
Photic pretty comfortable bot side, and again, worth mentioning, as we have the dragon fight or dragon contest potentially coming up, role quests are in a much better place for IG, which is big because NIP opted into this by rotating their bot side up top side. You've basically given away your tempo around these couple of minutes for the Void Grubs, and you got to capitalize on that right now as we've got 2 ganks coming up topside, one by Jwei, one by Guwon, who flashes on top of Soboro, but Care makes it a 3rd gank up to the top side, shifts the numbers in the favors of NIP, and collects a kill on Soboro.
Why send 3, or why send 2 when 3 can just as easily do the trick? Care participating in that fight with the rest of his team. They will sacrifice priority in the mid lane in order to get that play, but getting that tower is well worth it. Hoya with a massive injection in gold. Now with a clean reset as well. He should be getting his first item on top of all of that. So Renekton, TP, first item, doesn't have the Dominus, but this just makes him such a big threat once NIP decide to move down to this river.
Whoa! Zhuo flash engaging into a counter wild growth has him at half health, and Jwei feeling perfectly fine. However, Guwon inserts himself right in the middle of the fight with Hoya now stride breaker in hand, here to back him up. It's going to be a plus 300 to Guwon and a dragon to boot for NIP.
And Hoya with the redemption game, getting pushed around in game number 1. Now he's the bully onto all of IG. The teleport from the Renekton signals more aggression from the top laner of Ninjas in Pyjamas. They get the kill onto Jwei, and the second dragon will be theirs. 1-1 in the Drake score. Beautiful mid-game decisions coming out from NIP.
It really works out for them, evening up the dragons 1 for 1. And in a period of the game where they might otherwise not have won, we did mention where everybody was in terms of power levels. Rookie is looking really good right now for IG. NIP, they didn't have their role quests completed going into that, which I know. It's the last time I'm going to mention it, guys. Should have made this fight a lot more awkward. Even the initial engage wasn't flawless for NIP.
Yeah. And this is kind of a concern that we harkened back to in the draft, where Zhuo is going to have a really difficult time looking for these engage opportunities. As hang on, back to live. Kara's in a bit of trouble, or is it Rookie?
The minions.
All right.
They don't do magic damage. You get enough minions against a Galio, and surely he's going to go down. This particular case, both mid laners will back away, not wanting to find out which of them was in trouble, instead preferring to both have their lives. But a Rift Herald is going to be started up top side by NIP, and that is a contest for IG for sure, who don't want to give up Rift Herald, and certainly don't want to give up the life of their top laner, both of which NIP appear to desire.
Yep.
Grand Starfall
coming in.
That puts him in a bit of an awkward place. Guwon is right here. Hoya turns back around, was expecting that the whole time. Jwei, all alone, does get a heroic entrance, but will still fall, while Soboro, out of Mega, gets taken down by Hoya. It is 2 for 1 in the favor of NIP, and a flash forward by Care wants to make that a little bit more. Maybe hasn't been too fun laning up against the magic damage resistant Rookie, but this time they will get to escort him out of his own topside jungle and turn things around. NIP, they come out the better in that trade and could still look even better as Hoya commits between the towers. No ult, no Dominus, no life for this Renekton. Perhaps NIP have pushed things too far.
Yeah, Hoya going a little further than I feel he had right to, but IG just really split up in that top side fight. You can see Jwei was looking for some kind of a flank on the Lulu, but he ends up getting found by Guwon, forces Rookie to ult onto him, and IG are on 2 different fronts, and NIP capitalize off of that in the fight as we do get a replay here. And yeah, I just want to see the Jwei is just completely alone here. Guwon, he's low, but he finds a target. Care is there to help him out. He's forced to wild growth himself to stay alive. And IG are 2 split. They don't have the damage when they are split, and NIP get a big fight win here in the mid game.
Guwon was 1 auto away from living there and getting the res. That's so crazy. Yeah. And then this was, well, this was whatever this was.
Yeah,
to be
this
honest
was
with you.
this is the Croc not where he was supposed to be. Is now Hoya, is he where he's supposed to be here? That is the question.
So he was, but Care got knocked off of his wall, which somehow works out for NIP. Photic pulls a Hoya and steps perhaps a little bit out of line.
Yeah, he was not where he was supposed to be. Sivir goes down, and IG lose their mid turret and really aren't able to get anything back. Soboro is on the side lane, but Care is just as easily going to be able to respond to that as the Talia. And this was what we talked about in the draft. This was our kind of big concern about IG's comp, where they aren't playing their style. They're just reacting to what NIP are drafting. They see a side lane threat like Talia, and they go for the Pantheon, they go for the Galio. They haven't really been able to make use of those cross-map ultimates. I feel like Jwei has really not been alive in this mid-game to the degree we expected from him on a champion like this.
Unfortunately for Photic, even with the spell shield, there's not a whole lot of safety when I don't even know what you can realistically do. If you don't have a Galio on top of you, unfortunately the NIP composition is low-key just built to kill you.
Yeah. And Mountain Soul is definitely going to help in that. That comes up in about 20 seconds. And you can see both teams are very friendly in trying to get control of mid lane, of course.
Zhuo liberally throwing out the hooks and still encountering the same problem that you talked about earlier. The fact that most members of IG feel pretty comfortable being hooked into you. That's certainly erupting around the mid lane, as Wild Growth did at least get used on Jwei, but I wouldn't say NIP looked too comfortable after that trade. Something that's a bit awkward considering that Mountain Dragon is available, and now your AD carry is low. Guwon going to engage in the 2v3, and he is low. Heroic entrance does buy a little bit more space, but Jwei finishing the kill is what really does NIP in here. No jungler means no problem on this Dragon Secure. Hoya does jump onto Soboro, who is about to go Mega, and now is impossible to burst down. And IG, they lose nothing. They get a Dragon.
And really sloppy setup there from NIP, if I'm being completely honest with you. Dredgeline goes wide. Guwon ends up being the victim of that, and IG able to capitalize off of that missed position. NIP really just had no business. After Assum gets chunked, I feel like you aren't really able to escort your Yunara into the fight. And it would have just probably been wiser to give IG their Dragon, which they claim anyway. Second Drake gonna be going over to them, so that scaling Soul Point win con is very alive for them at the current moment. It's just a question of how well can they hold on to that. Photic, crucially, is now building toward that third item, so this Sivir is going to continue to climb the ranks as a legitimate threat the longer this game goes on.
Going to be pretty terrifying to deal with the Sivir in late game. We'll keep a count on how far exactly Photic is getting. This could be a big return to form game for Photic, who, even with a flashless support, has been, I would say, up and down in the course of this season. Started off, as we said, pretty up. People were high on Photic for a little while, and that's fallen off with the performances of IG. You put on a good Sivir performance here with a composition that does have the tools to defend you, and you can silence a lot of those voices, especially as playoffs is the moment to do it.
I think a lot of people think back to Photic on his V5 days, where he was a part of that squad that a lot of people were big fans of, and he himself was able to pop off on, I feel, a similar style to what he's trying to emulate here this year. But the big difference just kind of feels like the laning phase hasn't been nearly as crisp for him, and it has, at the very least, been inconsistent. I think that Photic is very champion dependent, and Sivir has been a character that he has routinely struggled on, as Jwei gets his back canceled.
Not a whole lot of vision in this side of the jungle for IG, so unfortunately for Jwei, stepping in here and recalling, not fantastic. However, Care in his own jungle does get jumped on by Rookie and actually has to flash away. This Galio still terrifying, but maybe that'll get a lot better, as having a Baron in your pocket does solve a lot of issues. Great wall from Care. Just stalls Photic and Jwei getting involved in this. Hoya zones out Soboro, who's about to lose Mega. Rookie is here, but the Baron is gone. Hoya flashes right on top of Photic, who gets the Wild Growth, who gets the Hero's Entrance, and still dies. Rookie, alone with 4 members of NIP, will find one, but still go down. And it is 2-3 kills for NIP, a double kill for Assum, and a Baron for the Ninjas in Pyjamas.
And NIP, they rip through the Wild Growth, they rip through the Hero's Entrance. Your shields do not matter. Ninjas in Pyjamas find the pick onto Photic. They rip IG apart on the top side, and they get themselves the Baron, Dia.
Taking a look at how this all went down, this was pretty good from NIP.
Yeah, this was amazing. The Weaver's Wall to stall them out, like you said. The flash decision-making from Hoya was beautiful as well. Instead of just walking away, trying to escape with the Baron buff, they go forward. And IG cannot save their AD carry. NIP coming alive here in the late game. The team fighting so much better than it was in game number 1. We said they needed to brush up on the team fighting 5v5 manual after that first match. Had very little of what made NIP so unique at the start of this winter split, and they read through some chapters for sure. This looks like a team that wants to tie up this series.
A team that very well is positioned to do so. Their lead already greater than that IG had in game number 1 when they themselves picked up the first Baron in the game. If you can expand a 6,000 gold lead right now, but just cracking the tier 2s, NIP are going to be in a fantastic position. I will point out as well that Soboro, the terror of last game with his almost 3,000 gold lead, now has that very same gift given over to Assum. Almost 3,000 gold over Photic right now. A terrifying proposition with an early picked Yunara.
And I believe he just finished building, was it the Hex Optics or was it the, I don't think, I think it was the Hex Optics that he got here on 4th item. So this is a 4th item Yunara. I think that this is a huge threat for IG at the current moment, and that threat is going to be enough to just scare them away from even attempting to look in the general direction of this bot side and contest this dragon. It will be ripped apart by NIP, and now the question of what can they do with this Baron buff is on the horizon. Jwei forced to flash, but does get himself out.
They unfortunately do not own this side of the jungle. Wei found that out earlier, and I guess Jwei just had to experience it for himself. This, however, is an NIP that is doing pretty darn well in this game, and considering evening things up for a 1-for-1, evening up the series, makes me think back on what NIP have accomplished, could still accomplish in the LPL, as they have actually reached up pretty darn far. Catching Jwei for a moment.
Got no flash.
And flashless on the Lulu. I wouldn't even be stepping up here as Photic. This is, I will say, a little bit too risky. And NIP, pretty darn confident right now, can do just about anything they want.
Rookie trying to put some pressure in the mid lane and force NIP to respond. He actually will claim this mid turret, so that will be a bit more injection toward the Galio, but it feels like Rookie has really fallen off in proactivity and overall influence in this game since that 2-0 start that he had in the laning phase. He's now 3-1-3, so he's only picked up like 1 kill in the past 15 or so minutes of this match. Has 100% KP though, so at the very least I can say he has been present, but it hasn't really equalized anything in tangible advantages for IG, and that's what we were really expecting with such a solid start for the IG mid laner.
Well, I'm hoping that Rookie is able to make this game perhaps a little bit closer than it is right now. I can't lie and say that I'm not really happy to see NIP firing back. I was worried that they were going to perhaps roll over after game number 1, considering that we didn't really see a game that they were that out of control in during Knight's Road. But this is looking a lot more convincing. This is looking like the team that managed to pick up the 4th place in regional finals just last year. I mean, we know that NIP as an organization can reach incredibly high in the LPL, but it has been a very up and down journey for them. Consistency, weirdly enough, has evaded not just these players, but the organization as a whole across multiple rosters. For NIP to reach even higher in 2026, they are going to have to solve that problem, and I would like to see that start in this series, where yes, you've had a difficult first game, but being able to recover that and deliver the same or similar performances we saw in the Knight's Road is going to be critical to helping NIP set new bounds for this organization.
For sure. It feels like NIP as an org definitely have a ceiling on them that a lot of people have placed there, just because they haven't really been able to break past that point as an org in placements, but they're looking to do that right now. Weaver's Wall barely avoided by Photic, but a TP is coming in nonetheless.
Photic already having to play incredibly safe. Everything gets burned to keep him alive. and Jwei pays for it. I'm sorry, guys. I know it's not funny. I know that it's really, really sad for Lulu to expire on my screen, but you know, something about it is incredibly vindicating.
Well, NIP are going to be able to reap the rewards of that pick onto the Lulu that you find so funny, Dia. Baron is up, and I guess NIP not comfortable ripping it right away. There are some decently low HP bars. You can see that Assum is a little bit above half HP. Kara is a little bit below half HP. They don't want to risk going onto the Baron. That will inevitably take their health bars lower, and so despite the kill, no tangible reward is going to come of it, and that Dragon Timer that will give the team who claims its sole point is ticking down by the second. If IG can't contest the Baron, maybe they can look for some kind of a cross-map play and get that win con for themselves. At least reignited, as it feels like they haven't had an actual way back into the game for a very long time.
I will follow up on my promise and address your point, though. Let's track where Photic is. He's sitting on 3 items as Sivir right now. And the amount of items that Sivir has on a competent AD carry, which Photic is, I'm going to put him in that bucket, is a pretty good indicator of whether or not Sivir is going to win the game. The higher the number goes, the better odds that IG win this one. And right now, he's a little over halfway done. He's already got the boots completed from a long, long time ago and ended up going with the Zerkers just to make the damage even more terrifying. So if he's not getting one shot, which he could be, Photic is approaching I'm going to win the game despite what my team says status.
Yeah, that's the cope we like here on the LPL right now. It doesn't matter if you're behind by 8,000 gold. The longer Photic is in this game, just by osmosis, means that the chances of IG winning increase. I can certainly subscribe to that, but NIP going toward the Baron might put a wrench in that theory, at least for the time being, Dia.
Yes, that's true. There is, you know, some complicated math at work here. The more dragons and barons that NIP get, I think that there's some sort of, maybe not subtraction, but division going on here, multiplication by some sort of weird number. I want to say that I wasn't very good at math. I was okay at math.
You know,
it's been a hot second since I was in a math class.
You know, I feel like I was a person who was actually pretty fond of math for most of my, I guess I'll call it my academic career, but I was not very good at it. I still enjoy doing it, though, which I feel like is a rare combination. How often is it that people enjoy doing something that is universally disliked, at least when you're in school and you're not very good at it?
I was going to say, if I didn't enjoy doing things that I wasn't good at, I wouldn't be playing much League of Legends. But classic. I suppose that as our resident high-ranked Kazakhs player, I think as per Alk, I'm not going to make specific reference.
Don't do it. Don't worry, I'm cooking, okay? Listen, content coming soon.
I'm excited. I could always use more Kazakhs content outside of my games, specifically on social media, but outside of my games. I don't get Kazakhs players as good as you.
Ooh, Soboro is being looked onto by Hoya, but he's still mega, so he's not going to be engaged onto. NIP, the Baron is starting to kind of wear off here. It's still got around a minute and a half, but they have yet to break open the base. The wave clear from the Sivir is proving a little bit arduous to work through for NIP.
Ooh, Assum steps up, though, and just deletes Jwei's health bar. He's going to get popped right into the GA and right out of it as well. We talked about the Sivir win condition, but because Yunara is kind of crazy herself, I did forget about how squishy Jwei really is in context. Rookie going to look for an engage right now, but Assum is very comfortable playing on the edge of that engage range. Soboro does grab a quick slow, but gets knocked up for his trouble. And NIP back away. No losses here, but a base broken in their favor.
Yeah, double inhib as well denied, so NIP not going to get supers flooding in from the mid lane wave. We'll get it from the bot lane. Still, though, I think this is acceptable enough to where NIP should have priority to really own this bot side river. We've got a dragon coming up in about a little over a minute, and this will be Soul for NIP, Mountain Soul specifically, which will make the front line of NIP just that much more difficult to shred through. Even though Photic now has 4 items, has that LDR in inventory, a Mountain Soul empowered Zehen and a Mountain Soul empowered Renekton is still going to take some time to get through. And I just feel like now IG, that's time they do not have, Dia.
Yeah, Zehen especially has been quite difficult to work through in these fights because he is such a constant problem having a built-in GA as well. The fact that Zhuo has absolutely no problem finding engages, being confident on them, is really nice for NIP as well. Jwei does get engaged on, but it's Hoya,
Soboro?
weirdly enough, who's just under half HP. Soboro chasing him down right now, looking for a fight, is going to flash forward, find a double stun, Rookie's over the wall, he taunts too. Assum is 200 HP and will be taken down, but a Grim Deliverance takes Guwon right into the back line on top of Photic. He is unfortunately alone as Guwon will be once again popped into the res and finally taken out. Rookie keeping all of IG safe. That is exactly the fight that they wanted. You got Soboro and Rookie all over him. And then Rookie takes up so much time, denies the dragon as well at the end of this play. I mean, I have more to say, but you go.
I mean, Rookie, Soboro, you said it. They're the guys that managed to find their way onto Assum. Soboro throws the house literally at Assum to take down the Yunara. And then Guwon is completely isolated. It doesn't matter how many times you kill the Zehen, he still ends up going down. You can get him to second phase, third phase, it does not matter, but I want to pay attention to Soboro. I love how confidently he's playing up here, and then Assum, he's the guy up front. He doesn't realize it because Hoya is taken so low, but this Renekton can no longer protect you. Rookie is on the side, and there's nowhere for Assum to run. He tries, but he still goes down. And then the rest of NIP to split to help out their Zehen, who has so many health bars, it physically makes me recoil. All of those are going to be expended, which means that IG will have a much more easy time killing this Zehen if future fights end up being just as bloody, which, Dia, they might just be. Baron is in less than 30 seconds.
Yeah, that last graph, I mean, my Mandarin may not be good, but I can look at pretty pictures, and Hoya not having really any impact in that fight, having to pop the Dominus and basically turn tail and run is really the biggest indicator of how that went. Now, Soboro did teleport into this fight just coming off of Mega, so if NIP want to pick an engagement, now is the time. They are going to back away into this Baron pit, but honestly, this timing is pretty good. IG do not have the tankiness, do not have the engage that they did moments ago, and Jwei actually might be found. Hoya's right on top of him. In comes the Weaver's Wall, and over it goes Jwei, booped back by the Talia. He's finally taken down, but Assum is alone in the pit with Soboro, and he's got no flash. He's deleted as well, and NIP, they get the jungler, but they lose their AD carry.
Yeah, it's a good look onto Jwei, but this Pantheon is really tanky at this point in the game. It takes them so long to burst him down that the rest of IG can trickle in damage of their own. Photic, particularly with the W, just constantly bouncing those autos between NIP members, gets them low enough, gets Assum and Zhuo down to very low HP, and manages to find the executing hits that take them down. IG holding on into this game as we do get a replay. And just look at the damage that Photic is able to deliver. The bouncing boomerangs going through between all of the NIP members takes them low enough and takes Assum low enough he isolates himself and gets found without his front line actually being able to assist him.
Yeah, that was a bit of an awkward fight because Assum is just sitting in the Baron pit and then trying to leave the Baron pit and going, I mean, what are we doing here, guys? Right now, Rookie may be asking himself the same question. He's alone with 3 people as the Baron goes down. I suppose at this point, he's pretty well informed. What they're doing is trading his life away for the Baron, and despite that, he is living a weirdly long time.
Okay. I mean, that pulls attention away. That Weaver's Wall just came off of cooldown. If the Talia's health bar was maybe in a little bit of a better place, NIP could have continued the chase, but they took a really long time for Rookie to go down to take down that Galio. He ends up dealing a good amount of damage onto Care, and 4 members of IG get away with that Baron buff. This will be really helpful in allowing them to keep these inhibitors on mid and bot alive, prevent these supers from flooding in on the side of NIP. And if they can hold on for the next minute and a half, Dia, they can easily contest and can look to control this bot lane river to look for the soul.
I'm scared. I'm so scared. Quax, this game was looking really good for NIP. I mean, this game was looking so good for NIP, but what we talked about is low-key coming to pass. I know that we haven't had the biggest pop-off team fight for him, but Photic is getting more and more items.
Yep.
He's almost 100% loaded on the victory screen, and that terrifies me.
Oh, teleport coming in. They're
This
pinching
is
them.
unspotted. Hoya, he could actually find Photic. Look at the AD carry. Photic actually whips out the cleanse. He is untouched and now starting to move forward with the rest of IG as NIP back away. It is Soboro in the backline who slams Zhuo and Assum against the wall. Rookie commits but will be taken down. It is a battle of AD carries as Photic does not have the space he had before. Hoya flashes on top of him. Zhuo hooks him in and finishes him off, and NIP reclaim control of this game with a masterful team fight.
And you can see Jwei is the only one left alive. He's going to try and hold the wave, but that is not the only lane that NIP can look to end the game on. They get themselves toward the bot lane. Assum changes his damage from the mid lane inhibitor to the bot lane one. Jwei, the only one alive for the next 30 seconds. He still has the Baron buff. If a wave comes in, he might be able to delay it, but I don't feel like the chances and the odds are in IG's favor.
Doing everything he possibly can. It will complete the ace for NIP. And by the looks of it, Quax, it will complete the game for NIP. As much like in the Knight's Road, they fire back 1 for 1 in our first 2 games.
I was saying deja vu when we started the stream, and I'm starting to get more of that deja vu. Game win for IG in game number 1, and NIP now with a game 2 victory to tie us up. How will the next 2 games go? Nobody knows, but we do have a blueprint for how it went in the past, Dia. Really solid game, though, from NIP here in game number 2. I do have to give a lot of credit over to Hoya and Assum in particular. Hoya being able to get revenge on Soboro for a really rough game number 1, I think looked a lot better here in game number 2. And Assum being able to pop off on this Yunara was a big question mark for us, especially with the denial pairing of that Lulu and the question marks around that Nautilus pick into the IG comp. Everything ended up going right for them. There were some bounce back moments from IG, but the team fights were what we were looking at, and NIP looked good in those 5v5s.
Yeah, this was a marvelous showing for any fans of Assum as well, because Assum was really pivotal in the last series that these 2 teams played. We talked about the Draven being a game-warping pick, but his Aphelios was fantastic as well. His Yunara, an unsung hero in game 4. Well, Kair's Diana was sort of taking over the focus of everything. Yeah. And you get to pull out the Yunara again in game number 2, and in a game that really is not about you. Like, the game is about top lane, is about Hoya and what he's able to do. It's about Talia and the map presence that she's able to have. Zhuo is having a decent, if not pop-off game on Nautilus. He's doing well, but he's not running the game for you and setting things up. Yeah. And Yunara makes the biggest difference here. And it's awesome. It's all to the credit of Assum that he's able to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I felt like it was a pretty slow start for NIP, all things considered, but I just felt like they played the 5v5s correctly. They were able to assemble around this Yunara, give Assum the peel that was required for the Yunara to dish out her damage in a lot of these fights. And even when NIP in some of those late game team fights did end up faltering, I gotta respect the bounce back. I think that our biggest question going into this game, one of the questions that we had actually last time these two teams met after that game 1 victory from IG, was how is the mental fortitude holding up for NIP? Are they going to be able to bounce back, look as confident as they were all throughout the rest of the winter split, and play their style regardless of that first game ending in an L? And they absolutely were able to do that here in game number 2. I love the confidence with which Guwon played. I love the confidence with which Zhuo played as well. Even if sometimes it, meant certain death for the Nautilus, he set things up, and the rest of NIP were able to execute off of the engages.
That is something that I really appreciated about NIP in their series against BLG as well, is that in game, BLG was able to play fantastically and take NIP down to the point that they really could do nothing in each game. NIP came into each fresh game and went for making plays, went for compositions that would let them play the way they wanted to, and really genuinely tried to do that. I mean, I've got a lot to say about that series. We'll hold it because we're talking about this one, but NIP's mental recovery between games was fantastic then, and it's fantastic now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think NIP now, this is where I personally think things start to get really interesting for Ninjas in Pyjamas. We have highlighted the really fun flexibility these guys have had in draft, the counter picks and the pocket picks that they have been willing to whip out when series end up going the distance. Game number 3 is always inevitable in a 5-game series. Even if one team was up 2-0, you're always going to get a game number 3. But I do think that this is kind of the line that you cross where you start to see some more unorthodox picks, where some of those fringe champions start to make their way onto the Rift. So I'm wondering if NIP or IG, I guess I can extend the courtesy to them, are thinking about going for things that are less common to spice things up here in this series, because it's already been really spicy. I think that NIP coming back in game number 2 with the team fighting style that they made their names on at the start of this winter split, and IG showing their best in game number 1 with a high octane early game. We've seen what these teams look like when they're able to play their style, and now it's a clash of which one is better executed in these remaining games, Dia.
Yeah, we've still seen, I would say, a pretty stable top side of the map for NIP as well, and two different styles in a lot of ways, with the Renekton and the Ornn, the weak side and the strong side. We haven't really seen that same attention directed towards the bot lane as we have previously, but NIP absolutely can pull that off, and this is pulling it back, actually, to exactly the thing that we were talking about in game number 1. Are we more afraid of the team that has practiced 1,000 punches, or IG, who have practiced the same punch 1,000 times? And it's really difficult to say, because it comes down, of course, to quality of practice, what you're able to do, when you're able to adapt, who is better prepared. There is so much nuance to it, and these first 2 games, much to my chagrin, Quax, have provided very little clarity on who I should in fact be more afraid of, because both teams in their own right have looked terrifying, but what is for the future of this series continues to evade me.
The jeers from the NIP coaching staff right there to end off the replays. But I mean, to the discussion of what is to be more feared, Dia, I do think that